Hello, friends. This is Anthony from Force Ghost Conversations. Are you looking to get into the podcast game yourself? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me tell you, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has some tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Then, when hosting on Anchor, you can even distribute your podcast on listening platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more places. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And get this, everyone, best of all, Anchor is totally free. Just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to discuss part 3 from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Now, before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. Look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. And also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Okay, everyone, we are back, and it is time to get back into the Obi-Wan Kenobi of it all. And if you've been listeners to Force Ghost Conversations, we've done part 1, we've done part 2, and now it is time for part 3. So since this is one of our bonus episodes, we are not going to do our typical Cloud City Gossip segment or any other segments other than just discussing the meat, the themes, the important events, the actions of everything that take place within Obi-Wan Kenobi, specifically within Part 3. Now, before we get started again, too, I really want to thank you all for your patience and for your support as I am slowly but surely recovering from COVID, and we're doing our best here to ensure that we're still sending out content to you all and keeping up with everything that has taken place in the Star Wars galaxy. So with that, we're releasing 3 episodes this week. They're all going to be on Obi-Wan Kenobi, trying to get us caught up with all the episodes that are coming out for this series. So at the time of this recording, we up to part 5 has been released, with on the following this upcoming Wednesday, part 6, the finale for Obi-Wan Kenobi is already upon us. So this week we are releasing 3 episodes since I didn't do a bonus last week, and I promised I would get to do 3 episodes this week. So if you really count yesterday's episode, this is 4 episodes of Force Ghost Conversations hitting you all this week. So I hope that you're enjoying the ride. I certainly am. And again, thank you for your patience. And also, thanks in advance. I may cough, I may sneeze during this episode. I probably sound more nasally than usual. So again, slowly but surely overcoming this horrible illness. So thanks again for coming along on the ride and for your patience and understanding. Really, it really means a lot to me. So I may take it a little slow here. I've got my blue Bantha cup from Galaxy's Edge, filled to the brim with water, as talking can still be a little much for me. So we're gonna work our way through it together here. So sit back, relax, and get ready to let's talk about some Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 3. So where we left off in Part 2, Obi-Wan has just realized a terrible, terrible truth. The fact that Anakin Skywalker, his Padawan, is still alive in some way, shape, or form. The episode begins with Obi-Wan calling out to his former master, Qui-Gon Jinn, who Yoda in Episode 3 has told him that he's been able to connect with him somehow, some way through the netherworld of the Force, right? This is Obi-Wan on his path to learning how to become a Force Ghost, right? Well, exactly what we are here at Force Ghost Conversations, right? If you look at our logo, there's Obi-Wan Kenobi sitting there on the end of the campfire, right? So he's trying to reach out to his former master Qui-Gon, but I'm glad that Qui-Gon's not responding. This challenge, this test that Obi-Wan is facing right now is for him alone to overcome. Friends are there to help us at the end of the day, but they can't do everything for us. And this is a real test that is for Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan alone to overcome. In this sequence too, we get these like great callbacks to things that have happened in the Star Wars galaxy before. So there's Yoda. He was saying, "Only pain will you find there," from Episode 3. Rava's apologies, haunting words from Part 2 are intersecting there as well. You hear a little bit of Qui-Gon. Obi-Wan, promise me that you will train the boy, from Episode 1 as he's dying in Obi-Wan Kenobi's arms. Then you hear Anakin, "If you're not with me, then you're my if you're if you're not with me, then you're my enemy." I know. I let me tell you, all these Anakin quotes that are in this sequence here. Let me tell you, in the King household, we say these lines a lot. We absolutely love the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan. We love all the lines that are said back and forth there. My wife and I, we know this scene back like the palm of our hand, right? We say it a lot, right? There, if there's ever like a need to remember one line or whatever from a movie, right, and we need to know it, we're probably going to go to this one, right? This whole sequence in some way, shape, or form, right? So I could even try. Maybe I'll try to do the Anakin voice here, right? But why not? Let's have some fun with this here. "If you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Don't make me kill you. I do not fear the dark side. I see through the lies of the Jedi." Maybe not as nasally as Hayden is in the sequence. So I don't know. Maybe I just ruined it all for you there. I'm having fun with this. Let's have a good time. All the while, Anakin is being put into the Vader suit, and let me just say that final image of him, like the helmet, fully engrossing him in the outfit, is incredible. The breathing comes on, and that still gives me chills to this day. Anytime I hear the Vader voice, or not the voice, but the breathing apparatus, I should say. And then Kenobi ends with it, in the sequence, "He is coming, Master." And then, wow, you can only imagine the confirmation that Obi-Wan is still out there for Anakin, and now knowing where he is, I can only imagine how that that search, that wonder of where he's at in the galaxy. And we're going to talk about this really extensively throughout the course of the episode here, but that must have really driven Vader to the point of insanity. Also, let me just say right now, Hayden definitely, he's in the suit here. Hayden Christensen knows how to do the Vader strut. He's done his homework, and he knows what he's doing here. But Vader does a Zoom call with Reva, and she's talking about the Grand Inquisitor and Kenobi and all that stuff, and Vader just kind of bluntly says to her, "Kenobi is all that matters now." Uh, that's we're going to get into a lot more about Kenobi and Vader and that whole dynamic later on, but don't want to give away too much right now at this point in the juncture. But I do love seeing Vader's castle again. For fans at home, it overlooks the spot on Mustafar where basically he was burned alive. That whole fight with Obi-Wan from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, he basically overlooks that whole area there. It's a real dark side energy, and it really feeds into this revenge, anger, rage that really feeds all the dark anger and power that he draws upon. And I really like that quartz-esque throne. I don't know what kind of rock that is, but I assume it's quartz. And it's really immaculate too. Vader then offers to Reva about the position of Grand Inquisitor. She proves herself by capturing Kenobi and continuing on this path that she's on. But he does, give her a word of advice here, though. "Fail me, and you will not live to regret it." Vader then goes over and looks out across the Mustafar landscape. And personally, at this moment, I like to think that Vader does go to that. He's overlooking that same spot again, where the good person that was Anakin Skywalker dies right then and there. Right, it's almost like his second origin story is the rebirth on Mustafar. Right, as Padme dies, and Obi-Wan and Anakin rises as Darth Vader in the suit, right? It's the death and rebirth scene. It's very well done in Revenge of the Sith, and I like to think that he's overlooking that and recontextualizing, rechanneling all that anger, hatred. Everything's coming back to him. He's feeling renewed vigor. Let's go. So then Obi-Wan is talking to Leia a bit on the ship as they're heading to this new planet here. I do really love how Obi-Wan explains how the Force works to Leia. It's really perfect tone for how to explain this to a child. Have you ever been afraid of the dark? He says, how does it feel when you turn on the light? And she says, I feel safe. And that's kind of how it is. That's faith in a nutshell, right? Finding a path in the darkness. That is a really warm way of explaining this grand religious concept to a child. However, I still think that Obi-Wan looks very conflicted in this moment, and just in general overall, he's struggling with his own beliefs, what it means to be a Jedi, what it means to be Obi-Wan in this post-Order 66 world, for that matter. He's also processing the news about his Padawan Anakin Skywalker, the father of Leia, still being around right there. And then we learn that they've landed on the mining planet of Mapuzo. And let me just say that Obi-Wan is not really patient. He's not a patient man at all at this moment. He's not patient. He's not trusting in others. Not unlike Leia here. He says that people are not all good. There's a quite interesting juxtaposition here of Leia's innocence and her willingness to see people as good. Versus, I would say maybe her good-hearted nature, perhaps, versus Kenobi's hardened exterior, probably as a result of everything that he's went through and his past. He shares that the Empire has come in and ravaged this planet here. There used to be families and farmers and whatnot, but she does note that her father, apologies, Bail Organa, is out there doing good in the world and in the galaxy, but the Empire is taking the resources that it does need in order to impose this order in the galaxy. Let me tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw this episode for the first time, I leaped out of joy when I saw the Return of the King, aka the Hayden Christensen returning as the haunting image of Anakin Skywalker with his Jedi robes back on, looking angrily, I would say, at Kenobi in the distance. And I'm sure that Kenobi is not just haunted by the idea of Anakin, but he also has no idea what he looks like now after he left him on Mustafar. He still has is trapped with this image of that poor boy that he grew up with from the sands of Tatooine, that he took on basically as his own child in a way, and raised him up until cutting off his own arms and legs. Apologies again for the coughing here. But Kenobi's world's about to be flipped on its side again very soon here. We then get to see the Fortress Inquisitorius, which is really cool. We got to see it before in the game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is a really great video game. I don't want to spoil too much of it here because we may go back to it in a future episode of Force Ghost Conversations, and the proper spoiler warning will be noted for that. But you do get to see it in that game. It looks very similar. They did a great job connecting pieces of canon there. But we get to see Reva with her imposing walking around the Fortress Inquisitorius, which I really think is cool. I love how terrifying the space really is when you get to see it up close and personal. And now we get to see the power vacuum for the spot of Grand Inquisitor, because we don't know what's really happened to him at this point in the game. The fifth brother thinks he is in line. Apologies, everyone. The fifth brother thinks that he is in line for this coveted title. Reva's position and power standing with Lord Vader, though, gets her a little bit more brownie points, I would say, in this regard, and it gets the other Inquisitors to budge and to send out some probe droids. So she's kind of de facto taken over at this point. And the standing with Lord Vader really got them to twist their heads. Reluctantly, the fifth brother sends out the probe droids to the mining regions. I did think it was pretty cool how they just send out the the probe droids from the fortress itself instead of like from a ship, as you would see in The Empire Strikes Back. Um, but the fifth brother too is still trying to gain his dominance for that spot of Grand Inquisitor. He's not looking behind; he's looking ahead, and that is basically the nature of the dark side in a nutshell. I mean, we talked about that extensively here before. Um, but can I also just say I like the fact that Natalie Holt is creating a new vernacular, so to speak, for Star Wars music. Coughing a lot today. Um, she could easily just rely on the Imperial March and other themes from the history of Star Wars, but she is forging her own path, and to my opinion, it's for the betterment of Star Wars. I really appreciate what she's done so far in the series. Like I mentioned before, again, Obi-Wan Kenobi has really no patience. When he gets to that spot on Mapuzo where he's supposed to meet with the person, he's even like wait like a minute, let alone like 30 seconds even before claiming that they were deceived, bamboozled, and that the transport isn't coming, right? Leia's pretty quick on her feet and goes immediately to the next transport. Says, "I'm not waiting around in the hot sun or waiting for an Empire patrol to come pick us up or something like that." Right? She goes right into action here, and we see the character Freck now, everybody, who is voiced by none other than Zach Braff, famed actor and director now. Most probably known from his work on Scrubs, so good stuff there. I like how forthcoming Freck is. He's basically saying like when they tell him why they're out there, he's like, "That's a weird story." He is a pro Empire supporter to the T, though, and he tells them that they're based off their story. There's some good people out there in Tull. They pay their way, listen to the Empire. Nothing wrong with little order, right? Freck represents essentially a brand new type of character, to my knowledge, in the Star Wars galaxy that that were presented. I'm sure they existed out there beforehand, but like if you weren't like in the Stormtrooper ever, I wouldn't expect you to be super pro Empire. But he is ardent in this support. Again, Leia is really quick on her feet. It's a great story that she proposes when the stormtroopers eventually come onto Freck's transport and ask what they're doing in Mapuzo. She's witty, saying that they were trying to find the place where her dad, who's basically, they're portraying as Obi-Wan right now, and her mom first met, since she has the quote-unquote mother has now passed. Obi-Wan, of course, slips up and calls her Leia. Geez, man, come on, help out your own cause. But Obi-Wan is quick on the gun, too. He says, that was her mother's name. I get confused. It hasn't been easy. And then we get that really fantastic line. Sometimes when I look at Luma, which was what they were calling Leia in this play sequence, I see her mother's face. We all miss her very much. Let me tell you, this line now even gets me emotional. There's something about the tragedy of Padme Amidala that is so impactful for me. Now that we get to see her children grow up, Luke and Leia, I always find comfort in seeing the aspects of her that exist within them. And Leia can easily pick up on what Obi-Wan is saying here. And you can tell it, obviously, in the wonderful performance by Vivian Lyra Blair. She then says later to him, "You knew her, my real mother, didn't you?" Leia can sense that Obi-Wan is lying to her in some regards. She asks him if he is her real father, and then Obi-Wan retorts back, "I wish that I could say I was, but no, I'm not." The line is really good storytelling, in my opinion. It's not that he is saying that he wishes he was with Padme instead, but he knows the pain and suffering that her father, Anakin, caused for the galaxy and for Leia's family, the immediate family, that being Anakin, Padme, Luke, etc. To me, Obi-Wan wishes that it were so simple that he could take it all away. But life is more complicated, though. Obi-Wan does reveal to not Rave, to Leia, that he now has some glimpses of his family from when he was a young child. His mother, a brother, even. But let's not get too wild here, ladies and gentlemen, with your theories at home. Now, come on, let's just because he has a brother doesn't mean that it's the Ray fan theories and he's Snoke and all that, right? Let's learn to speculate responsibly here, but let's just have some fun with it too while we're at it. Let me see where I'm at with my notes here again, because I had to take a sip of water. It gives me some credence here to Leia remembering a little about her mother in Return of the Jedi. You know, that famous scene where she's talking to Luke and she's like, the glimpses, she was sad and all that stuff. Force users must be able to pick up on those things, basically like the empathy and feelings of it all, especially when they're even little, which makes sense for my headcanon. Obi-Wan is a little loud, though, about talking about his family and the Jedi again. And I'm just saying, some self-preservation here would go a long way. Freck is definitely pro-Empire, so he should be Obi-Wan should be mindful of what he is saying. Freck is going to be the first person to turn someone in at the sight of any tomfoolery. Obi-Wan then kicks into gear, into protective uncle mode as the transport gets kind of searched, I should say. He's come so far for Leia's protection, and he is not going to lose everything now. We get a little great action sequence there. They see the stormtrooper getting cut in half by the beam, which was pretty wild. And then when all else seems lost, though, Obi-Wan he has to put his gun down, his blaster. They're surrounded by like 3 or 4 stormtroopers or something like that. We are introduced to the excellent Tala, who is portrayed by Indira Varma, who you may recall from Game of Thrones. Now, Tala is the Imperial officer who has turned coat to help smuggle people off-world alongside Haja. And she takes out the remaining stormtroopers and then informs Obi-Wan that she was the contact who was supposed to meet them, but she got held up a bit. That's how it goes with the Imperial bureaucracy from time to time. The probes keep coming and all of that and things and out. She got held up, and if maybe Obi-Wan had been a bit more patient, things would have turned out a little bit differently. But who knows? We also get to meet Ned B, the loader droid. He's not allowed to communicate, but Leia learns a great lesson. We can all take this lesson at home too. Tala said that actions speak louder than words. Very, very true. Very true. It's some good wisdom. I'm a big fan of Ned B. As we see from the episode, Ned B was ready to rock and to clock some stormtroopers if they got too close to discovering the path. And more Ned B will be coming out later and later and later. So Obi-Wan is informed of this network that Tala is a part of here is known as the Path. Some Jedi have even come through here, and they're sent to Jabim, where they get new identities and are allowed to, go about the rest of their lives, what have you. Whew, sorry again, folks. We learn that Jedi Master Quinlan Vos is still alive, everyone. Tala tells Obi-Wan that he still helps people through the path and to guide them on their journeys. And we get a really cool line here about the path and what someone engraved into the wall, right? Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see the way. This is the way, right? Cue the Mandalorian, folks. All jokes aside, it is a great piece of wisdom. Close your eyes, clear your mind. Remember the patience of Qui-Gon. You will see the path in front of you when you clear your mind, right? You know what choice to make. Rely on your values. Rely on your wisdom. Relax. Take a breath. Find your path. Okay? Good stuff. Good stuff. And then, do we get into the meat of the episode here? Obi-Wan feels a presence. Something he hasn't felt since... I hope you caught that reference, everyone. That's an episode 4 reference in regards to on the Death Star when Vader recognizes Obi-Wan's presence again. But we get Darth Vader in the flesh, ladies and gentlemen. Obi-Wan realizes that his greatest fear has now become a reality right in front of him again. We see Vader go on a rampage in this little town right here. Vader chokes out that family, basically snapping some necks, doing anything to draw out Obi-Wan. He basically drags that poor lady through the street. If it wasn't for Obi-Wan trying to lead them away while Tala and Leia escape, who knows what would have happened here. But it definitely would have been good. Eventually, we get them front-facing each other, right? Vader and Obi-Wan reconnect again. Master and apprentice. The lightsaber ignition by Vader is my favorite image of the entire episode. The fear on Obi-Wan's face on the other side is palpable. And Vader at night, especially, is menacing. We got to hear the voice of James Earl Jones again, reprising the role of Darth Vader. Now, that is the same technology that is used on the Luke Skywalker character in the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian, where it's basically it's kind of like artificial intelligence that's recreating the voice based off of um, the catalog of what's been said by the character before, and they recreate the voice for it. So it's just really cool how they are recreating the likeness of James Earl Jones again. They're doing a great job. Frankly, it makes me excited for the future of what possible storytelling can be done with this technology. So great stuff. The whole fight sequence too has some incredible horror vibes too. The lighting of the lightsabers is extra exquisite. The best lines of dialogue can also be found here. When Obi-Wan questions, "What have you become?" and then Vader responds back, "I am what you made me." Whoo, whoo, the staunch defiance in Vader's voice here is amazing. I bet you he has been thinking about this moment for 10 years now. It has been living and playing out in his head day in and day out. Now it has finally come to pass. For Vader, he has channeled all of his rage, hate, and revenge into Obi-Wan Kenobi, blaming him for everything that happened. Padme losing the baby, right? The pain and suffering that he underwent, and was in becoming forced to live life in this mechanized suit and being burned alive. I bet you Anakin isn't in his head accepting that he, in fact, was the cause of these problems and his situation. No, 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 folks. It was certainly Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Couldn't have been anyone else. So this fight is Vader's great victory, his revenge coming to pass. He is playing with Obi-Wan, trying to make this sequence last as long as possible. Because you know what? What happens when Kenobi is gone, right? Vader will have nothing left to blame but himself. And that's how revenge and hatred work, though, ladies and gentlemen. Obi-Wan, let's be honest though, needs a refresher in lightsaber training and how to fight, because Vader is letting him have it. You can tell that this man hasn't picked up a lightsaber in almost 10 years. You can tell that he hasn't been really trusting the Force a lot lately. He's getting his butt whooped here. Let's put it plainly and simple here. So let's see. Where am I at here with my notes? But eventually, Vader lights this area on fire in the desert, and he drags Obi-Wan into the fire, and he makes him start to burn alive, similar to what Anakin had to experience. He says, "Now you will suffer, Obi-Wan." He says, "Your pain has just begun," and it's the flip side again of what Anakin had to experience in Episode 3. The visuals of Vader looking into the fire are fantastic as it reflects off of this cold face of his. Great stuff all around. The imagery is wonderful in this episode. Leia smartly convinces Tala to help out Obi-Wan. Is obviously, it's not smart in the fact for what happens to Leia afterwards. I mean, she is captured by Reva, who does discover the path in its network, etc. But frankly, Obi-Wan probably would not have made it out alive otherwise. Again, if it weren't for Ned B and Tala, Obi-Wan would be lost. Ned B eventually drags him out after Tala, shoots around some stormtroopers, distracts Vader long enough to get him pulled out of there. And again, Ned B pulls him out of the fire. Talk about setting a good example. The actions speak louder than words here. Vader has come so close, but it's foiled once again. For Vader, though, I think he is savoring every moment here because, again, killing Kenobi is the bane of his existence. That he's channeled all that rage, hate, and anger into one person, and once that is gone, he will have nothing left. The episode concludes with this great cliffhanger of Leia being captured by the third sister, aka Reva. So let's recap. Where are we at the end of this episode? Kenobi is burned very badly and is barely alive, while Leia has been captured by an Inquisitor and is being transported to an unknown and probably heavily guarded area. Our heroes are certainly pushed to dire straits as a result of what transpires in this episode. However, the main theme of actions being important and speak louder than the words themselves are consistent here. We help friends when they need it, and we do what is right because it is right. These universal themes are central to what Star Wars is all about, and I cannot wait to see where the show goes with part 4. No, I have already seen part 4 and part 5 ahead of time, but as we discuss each episode individually, this is what we can really take away from this sequence alone. We got the return of Darth Vader. We got to see him fight against Obi-Wan Kenobi again. We got to see Vader really win this encounter, right? But what's it going to mean for the grander story? Who knows yet? We're gonna have to see where it goes and all that stuff. So thanks again, everyone, for listening to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. Thanks again for coming along for the Obi-Wan Kenobi ride of it all. Thanks again for your patience in allowing me to cough and sneeze and be nasally and all that stuff while I'm still recovering from COVID. But I really do appreciate it all. I would love to hear what you think about this episode and what you're thinking about Obi-Wan Kenobi overall. Be sure to interact with us on our social media channels: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Let's connect, let's chat, let's have a good time. And we'll be back with a few more episodes later this week on Obi-Wan Kenobi, so be sure to come back for all those then. But in the meantime, I hope that you all stay well, stay safe, and may the Force be with you.